money coming into the Kansas economy to be spent here to help build up that economy and to get us restarted as an economy. Let's talk about workforce training, redirecting the new economy to be here in Kansas. Let's talk about child care benefits for those workers. Once again, I do appreciate the fact that we are in a challenging situation. We're coming up on the summer. I'm hoping all these teenagers coming out of high school can help fill some of those lower end jobs. And I'm excited about having that extra stimulus money coming into our economy. I just wish this were more of a proactive resolution, Mr. Vice President, than it is. And so I'll unfortunately have to vote no on it. Thank you.
Recognize the senator from Johnson, Senator Warren.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I rise in support of the Senate concurrent resolution. Back in my district, when the legislature left last March 2020, because the pandemic was arriving here in Kansas and the legislature adjourned, I was immediately convening restaurants, other retailers, and other businesses to conference on how are we going to get our businesses reopened. Some of them were deemed non-essential, and even those that were deemed essential were still struggling. So now that the legislature through this session has taken steps that the state wouldn't be able to close down businesses or deem businesses essential or non-essential, those businesses are now asking me, well, how can we get workers to come back to work? How can we get them to come back when they're incentivized and paid more to stay home than to come back and work at our business? I saw a graph this week that the number of businesses in Kansas, and there was a big dip. It's come back a little bit, but a big dip occurred, and that was, I believe, when the schools were closed. So parents had to choose, can I go to work, can I run my business, or do I stay home and help the kids, help my kids? And so now that Kansas has the option for in-person learning at schools, we've done that as well. So I think the last step that we need to take is to help get our employees back to work. There's dignity, there's value in being a valued member of an employment team, to being at work, and we're certainly running into problems with our struggling businesses who have struggled so much through this last year or 15 months. Actually, I'd like the legislature to send a message that we are here for you. Our businesses are our community leaders oftentimes. They're owned by families in Kansas, and they're real people too. The business owners are, as well as their employees. So let's get these teams back to work and help the Kansas economy thrive. Thank you very much, Mr. Vice President.
Seeing no more questions, you may close, Senator Masterson.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. So I think the only question I heard in that conversation that we weren't really able to answer was, where's the beef? Beef is hanging in the window of a ton of small businesses and companies all across this state. It says help needed or help wanted. That's the beef, right? And I noticed there was some key in on the McDonald's comment. Well, you know what? If that signing business was competing against Wendy's or another business, or if that sign-on business was competing in the market for employment, kudos. That's a great thing. It's not. It's competing against tax dollars in the unemployment system. I did the only thing it added. So this is less than 30-day old. Kansas remains top state for unemployment fraud despite officials seeking solutions, less than 30 days old. So for that one. But the key is we're using tax dollars to compete for these jobs. I completely agree with those in the minority that had issue with that statement. If those sign-on bonuses were competing against the market, they are not. We need to stop using those tax dollars to compete for employment and further solve this issue. So with that, the motion's been made, and I would urge you to vote for the resolution.
We will hold for final action. We are now ready for final action. On this roll call, we will take the following: SCR 1616. The clerk will read the title.
Senate Concurrent Resolution number 1616, a concurrent resolution urging the governor of the state of Kansas to end federal pandemic unemployment compensation to ensure that businesses do not have to compete with the federal government in attempts to fill thousands of open positions.
The clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner. Billinger. Bowers. Clays. Orson. Dietrich. Dahl. Erickson. Bag. Rouse-Godot. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hawk. Hildebrand. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Cluse. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Reichman. Steffen. Straub. Sullentrop. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Has every senator had the opportunity to vote? Are there any explanations of vote? Senator from Wyandotte, Senator Haley.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I voted no on this resolution, and actually it really came about due to something I too heard on a podcast this morning. I think it was referenced by another senator that said there indeed is no correlative between those who are on extended unemployment benefits and those who are looking for work, that it's not a disincentive. I wish I could say the name of this. It was writing in this morning, actually, on NPR. I don't know if I could say the name of it, but I guess I can. It's called Up to Date. And it was a very conservative economist who works with the Federal Reserve Bank that did point out that this is not a disincentive by extending unemployment benefits from people who are actively looking for work. And I would recommend that to anyone who'd care to hear it. And it leads me to continue to not support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Vice President.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President. I voted aye for Senate Concurrent Resolution 1616. And as we were debating this resolution, a famous quote from one of my favorite presidents, Ronaldo Maximus, come to mind. The most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Anytime the government puts its hand on the scale of the free market, it always distorts it and always has a negative effect. The Kansas labor force has shrunk by about 10,000 workers since the $300 UI bonus was reinstated. There are still 5,000 more unemployed Kansans than there were pre-COVID, and the UI bonus is keeping them from having an incentive to return to work. And because of that, Mr. Vice President, I vote aye.
You care to have your words spread on the journal? Duly noted. Are there any more explanation of votes? Seeing none, does any senator wish to change their vote? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson?
No to pass.
Duly noted. The clerk will call the roll, close the roll, and tally the vote. 27 voting in favor and 11 against. This measure, having received the required constitutional majority, is hereby declared adopted. Please stand at ease.
Chair recognizes the senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 29 is just a one-sentence, very simple bill that provides greater consumer protection to those middle-income Kansans who would otherwise be uninsured. They would never qualify for Medicaid, much less Medicaid expansion, and they would like to have greater protection. Instead of just 1 year, it would give them 3 years for treatment over any condition that would develop in the first year. We have debated and discussed this bill in great length the last 2 times that we voted on it. And therefore, Mr. President, the veto message of the governor having been read, I move that Senate Bill 29 be passed notwithstanding the governor's veto.
You've heard the motion. Are there questions? Senator from Lyons, Senator Longvine.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the chair of FI&I that worked this bill, I strongly urge the body to support the override of the veto. I had a conversation last week with a individual who was a high-level executive at a company, and their board of directors instructed him to sell the company. Which meant that he was basically selling himself out of a job at 59 years old. His main concern was, what am I going to do once COBRA runs out in 18 months? Where am I going to get insurance? This is a great alternative to our exchanges, which quite frankly are not working. The exchange price of medical insurance is extremely costly, and it will continue to be costly until we make people join during an enrollment period and stick with that election until the following year. As long as we continue to allow people to jump on and off the exchange only when they're sick or when they need medical care, those prices will continue to be outrageous. So this is a great alternative. The bill is really pretty simple. It takes the 1 year limit and moves it to 36 months. So I urge the body to support the veto override.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do stand in support of Senate Bill 29 and do encourage the body to vote to override the governor's veto. I think the governor's veto has a big error in it when you talk about this bill not being a sufficient enough insurance policy. I think the body here needs to understand Senate Bill 29 does not put this current insurance policy, the short-term insurance coverage, into effect. By voting to sustain the governor's veto, it also does not mean this short-term insurance policy goes away. What Senate Bill 29 does is it makes a short-term insurance policy better. So it helps to alleviate bankruptcies on the middle class family member that's between, or family that's in between a job, because if they come down with a illness while they are on this program, they can, with Senate Bill 29, they will be able to extend it out for 36 months instead of the 12 months. How can we as Kansans look at an individual family member that is middle class that is currently on this policy and tell them, I'm sorry, 36 months is too long for this policy because we don't like it. You should have picked something else. What happened to freedom of choice and self-responsibility? They have the responsibility to pick what's best for their family. Again, I will go back to my quote that I mentioned earlier. When the government gets involved, bad things happen. So, body, I encourage you to vote to overrule the governor's veto on Senate Bill 29.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the ranking on insurance, I just want to voice some concerns with this bill. And those concerns do not come from Cindy Holscher, the senator, but come from various healthcare organizations and individuals who have been past customers of these types of insurance plans. And some of those organizations include the Kansas chapter of American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Heart Association, the American Lung Association, the Arthritis Foundation, National Multiple Sclerosis Society, as well as the Susan G. Komen Foundation, just to name a few of the organizations who are very much opposed to this type of coverage. The reasons why they have concerns are the fact of the matter that there's no extension guarantee. So if somebody buys one of these plans and they need to re-up, if they have a pre-existing condition, there's no guarantee they can do so. And just the fact of the matter that pre-existing conditions do not allow for coverage is a huge issue. Many of these short-term plans do not have a network of doctors and hospitals associated with them. That means higher cost. Routine benefits often are not covered. Prescription drugs are often not covered, which can be a surprise to many individuals. And essentially, that's what we're talking about. People purchase this coverage thinking they have comprehensive coverage when they don't, and then they are surprised by huge medical bills. Additionally, there is a great option. Through the American Rescue Plan, individuals can buy insurance now for less price and better coverage. That is where we should be directing our individuals who need insurance coverage. In light of those issues and in light of all those concerns from a vast array of healthcare providers and customers, I oppose this program and encourage the body to do the same.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to be voting no on this bill because these policies truly are junk. It's not just a clever name. As Senator from Johnson, Senator Holscher said, these are incredibly problematic. The more I've studied these junk policies, the worse I understand them to be. With most bills that we have in this chamber, even those I don't support, I can at least find a few things about the legislation that I like or that make sense. There is literally nothing good about junk insurance. There is nothing good about this bill. It is simply not true that exchange plans are more expensive, especially with the American Rescue Plan incentives. You can go now and get for the same price a policy that provides comprehensive coverage. Senator Holscher just laid out all the groups that oppose this. I've not seen a single bill come through here this session that has less support from folks who really understand this issue, who understand health insurance and health policy. She read you all the names of the folks who oppose this. And pretty much the only folks who support this bill are insurance agents who want to make a quick buck from writing these policies. Agents who sign people up for junk insurance are paid 12 times the commission compared to what it would be for signing someone up for a plan on the exchange. So this policy, this bill, these junk plans are just a massive cash cow for the insurance industry. I would say, what do these insurance agents know that all of these other organizations don't? And what we hear from people pushing this bill is, well, these policies aren't right for me. They're not right for my family, but they're right for some Kansans. So my question is, which Kansans? Which Kansans don't deserve access to comprehensive health insurance? For which Kansas is it, quote, the right fit to be at an increased risk of medical bankruptcy? I've yet to meet a Kansas family that doesn't deserve access to comprehensive health insurance. These policies are junk. They're not good enough for my family. If they're not good enough for your family, they're not good enough for Kansas families. I urge this body to vote no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Gossage, do you wish to respond as we go or wait to close? Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson.
Thank you, Mr. President. A couple of years ago, we had a bill, the Farm Bureau Health Benefit Plan. I mean, we had a lot of testimony in my committee about that bill, and we heard the stories where people couldn't afford their health insurance. This gave them an option. This is just another option. Doesn't cost the taxpayers a penny. It allows, there's going to be a lot of people in transition from COVID over the last year and a half or two because of the COVID. They're going to need, there's probably going to be more need for these policies than ever. They can't afford the ACA because they made too much or they don't qualify in one way. These plans are going to probably be needed more than ever in the next couple of years, and extending it 2 more years. It's, you know, the people that use it, if they like it, they can extend it a couple more years, or they can go out on the exchange if it doesn't work for them. So I don't see, by giving them the opportunity to do that, to go 2 more years, it's their choice. And, you know, I think it allows more competition, which more competition brings prices down. And I think the Farm Bureau Health Benefit Plan has worked for a lot of Kansans and helped them with their health insurance and brought the costs down to them rural areas. And I think this is another way that's going to be needed over the next couple of years more than ever. And I don't see any harm in doing this. I support it 100%. So thank you.
Senator from Montgomery, Senator Pack.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in strong support of overriding the veto on Senate Bill 29. I was a supporter of Senate Bill 29 from the get-go. It was originally Senate Bill 199. It's no secret, I'm an insurance agent. I will not profit 1 penny from supporting this legislation. I do not write these plans. So for it to be said that the only people that support such policies are insurance agents who are looking to receive a commission, frankly, I consider insulting. There are a lot of us who support short-term health plans as a viable, affordable option. And the Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson, I think, did a great job of explaining several things and somewhat taking my thunder away regarding these particular policies. And to call them junk policies is totally incorrect, totally false. Insurance policies are taken with the understanding that we hope we don't need them. We hope we don't need life insurance. We will. We hope we don't need medical coverage. We will. We hope we don't need auto insurance. Probably will. We hope we won't need homeowners insurance. I never have in my time, but there may come a time, but I still have all these coverages. Are some policies better than others? Absolutely. But I, as a consumer, have made the decision to choose the coverages and the policies that I have chosen. There's been a comment made about the fact that if a person gets a condition during the term of their first 12 months, then it's too bad for them. At renewal time, they're guaranteed renewal if they wish to continue their coverage. So if a person during the first 12 months, and currently these policies are available, they are on the marketplace, they are in Kansas statute, a person can take this coverage for a duration of 12 months. So we're not changing anything about eliminating these policies. They will still be sold every day in the state of Kansas. We are simply saying that if you want the option of renewing these policies for an additional up to 24 months additional, you can do so. Particularly if you have one of these policies and you have a condition that arises during your first 12 months. I assure you, it's in your best interest to continue that policy because you know what the premium rate will be. You will not face any underwriting requirements. You will not face any pre-existing condition questions, but you can just continue moving forward. I personally, and this is not the issue today, but I personally would like to see us allow these short-term plans to be longer, 48 months, or If I was king, I would say 60 months. That's 5 years. That's still, to me, short term for someone my age. As has been mentioned, the Farm Bureau benefit plan that passed during the 2020 session, I have long bragged about that being one of the best things that the legislature did during the 2020 session, was pass a Farm Bureau plan allowing persons to have another viable, affordable option for their health care coverage. It appears to me that a lot of the opposition to Senate Bill 29 and short-term plans is because there are a lot of people who would prefer to have individuals rely on the government through Medicaid or some to that effect coverage, rather than them choosing to use their own income and their own dollars to provide their own coverage. There's so much that could be said, but I will allow the senator from Johnson, who's carrying the measure, to close and to cover things. But when it was mentioned that the only ones that supported are insurance agents who receive a commission, that's false. An insurance agent, for a while, received no commission from any health insurance coverage. It's not junk coverage. It's just like any policy. Your auto insurance, for example, does it pay for you to change your oil, to buy new tires, many other things? No, that's still on you. There may be some things on any medical coverage you have, Medicare, that's not going to be covered. So to call this junk is incorrect, because it is not. To say that pre-existing conditions are an issue, there are many other options out there for people who have a pre-existing condition or who do not like this kind of coverage. We're not mandating anything. We are simply saying, consumers in the state of Kansas, you have an option to continue coverage for up to a total of 36 months if you so choose. So therefore, I support it, and I would ask the body support override this veto. I would love to see this as an option for Kansas consumers when it comes to their health care coverage. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Corson, for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to clear up a couple misconceptions or a couple of things that were said that are not true. The first thing, and the thing I think is most important for this body to understand as we make a decision about how we're going to vote on this, it's been mentioned a couple times that renewal is guaranteed. That is just factually not true. I want to read a quote from the Kansas Insurance Department. Quote, "Guaranteed renewability without underwriting is at the plan's discretion, and such language would be included in the policy if that's the case." So let me just read that again, because it's been said multiple times, and it is simply untrue. Guaranteed renewability without underwriting is at the plan's discretion, and such language would be included in the policy if that's the case. That is from the Kansas Department of Insurance. That's the first point. The second is there was a comment made about we really need this because of COVID, and there's going to be a lot of people who are going to need this because of what's happened with the number of people who've contracted COVID who are going to need insurance. That's a pre-existing condition. That's the problem with these plans, is these people aren't going to be able to get covered under these plans because everybody who had COVID, all of the thousands and thousands of Kansans, they now have a pre-existing condition, which is grounds for denying them coverage. So I just wanted to clear that up, and I appreciate the body's indulgence, and I thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Cherokee, Senator Hildebrand, for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. Since this is my last time, I better make it count. I am too an insurance agent, and there was a comment made earlier that the only one supporting this is insurance agents, but I want the body to understand, as an insurance agent, you know, we are supposed to explain each bill that we are proposing to sell to our clients, the ins, the outs, the benefits, and things that it doesn't cover. That's part of being a good insurance agent. That is the number one thing that you're supposed to do, is when you sit down with your client, is to explain to them what is covered and what is not covered, what the policy does and what the policy does not do. For the record, I do not sell short-term health policies. As a matter of fact, I don't sell any health insurance policies. Whenever I have someone coming into my office that requires that, or asks for it, I refer them to somebody that has a lot more expertise in that, because health insurance is complicated, just like all other insurance policies. And I try to concentrate my profession and my business on what I understand 100% very well, and then I can explain it to my insureds without any doubt. The term junk insurance is referred to because pre-existing conditions. Oh, pre-existing conditions, it's a junk insurance policy. Most everybody here has an auto insurance policy. Most everybody here probably has a homeowner's insurance policy. I want you to go without insurance, have an accident, have a fire at your house, and go try to get insurance for that. There is not an insurance policy that will cover that. That's a pre-existing condition. That does not mean that that insurance policy is a junk policy. It just means that because of insurance, insurance is transfer of risk. That's what it is. You know there's a risk of something going to happen. Do I want to be physically or self-funding and be responsible for whatever's going to happen at my home? Nobody's making me buy homeowner's insurance unless I have a loan on from the bank, and then the bank says, you're going to have it because I have interest in it. Nobody's making anybody buy a short-term health insurance policy. A homeowner's insurance isn't for everybody. Comprehensive and collision coverage on an automobile isn't for everybody. Some people just have liability just to protect the other person. Is liability insurance for an automobile junk insurance? Some people might say that. Shouldn't everybody have the right to have comprehensive and collision coverage if they're in an accident? They have that right. Nobody's telling them they cannot get insurance, comprehensive and collision coverage on that vehicle. Just like nobody's telling them they have to take this policy. This policy is an option. It is a tool in the toolbox for people to use. One of the other comments that was made is, oh, everybody that's against this. Again, I'll go back to, it's everybody's personal choice. When we were in committee, I asked a question to a couple of these, or at least one of these organizations that called it junk insurance, and I asked what their objection was. Their objection was pre-existing conditions, and it's not fully comprehensive. Some of you that do not, are not in the insurance world might not realize this, but there are extra policies that you can get. The most famous one's the duck, Aflac. You can go out and purchase these. They're really fairly reasonable. They're not junk insurance, but they are not comprehensive. They do not cover pre-existing conditions. I had a sister that I was born on her 3rd birthday. We were twins, only 3 years apart. At the age of 31, she passed away of pancreatic cancer. Devastating. I have a little niece that was just a little girl at the time. And ever since that day, I have always had a cancer policy, because I felt it was important to my kids and my family, my personal choice, to go out, and I knew there was a policy out there. Even if I wasn't in insurance, I watched TV and see the duck, and purchased a cancer policy. It's not junk policy for me. Is it for everybody? No. Is it junk? No. Because if I use it, and if I come down with cancer like my sister, I'm covered. My family's covered. Heart disease is something that runs rampant in my family. My father passed away not too long ago because of heart disease. I had grandmother pass away of heart disease. Uncles. Do you know there's a disability insurance policy that covers stuff like that? It's pretty reasonable if you get it when you're a little bit younger. I've got one of those policies. because I want to take care of my family if something happens to me, and that has to be used. It's not for everybody, and it's not junk insurance. It serves a need. It serves a purpose. And nobody is telling me I have to buy it or I cannot buy it. I am thankful I have the opportunity and the option to use my free choice and my personal responsibility to my family to go out and purchase a policy like that. And that is exactly the same thing as what a short-term insurance policy does. So once again, I highly encourage all members of this body to vote to support Senate Bill 29 and to overrule the governor. Thank you.
Senator from Johnson, Senator Olson for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to make sure on my remarks on COVID, I was just saying people are going to be displaced. There's businesses going to shut down. They weren't saying that people had COVID, could get this insurance. That all it was saying, there's going to be a lot of people displaced. There's going to be businesses shutting down. This is going to be an option some people need. And, you know, I think you've heard a lot of great statements here. This is another option. People are going to need it, and they're going to use it. Is it a large group of people? I predict it won't be, but it'll be a large enough group that need it, that it's necessary that we give them the option to do that. So, again, I just wanted to state it wasn't someone with COVID. Thank you.
Senator from Douglas, Senator Francisco.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have made health insurance in this country very confusing, not easy to understand, not easy to purchase, not easy to use. But we also have recognized that we will, as a society, take care of some health issues. So there are people who go to the emergency room if they've been in an accident, and they're going to get treated because that's what the hospitals are doing to help. So there is a social cost of individuals not having appropriate insurance. And I think that's the other thing we need to balance. That my understanding is this was gap insurance to be used for a short time, and it may be limited. Those limits are going to not only affect those individuals with the insurance, they're going to affect situations of bankruptcy. They're going to perhaps be unreimbursed medical costs. So I do agree that we do have some responsibility to make sure that we're protecting others and we're protecting our society. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, Senator from Johnson, you may close on your motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just add two things. Most of what I heard today in this discussion was about the plans themselves. We're not discussing the plans themselves, whether we override the governor's veto or we do not. The plans will continue. People will continue to purchase them. What we're discussing is making them better, to where people can have greater protection. I would like to address something from the Department of Insurance that, yes, it will be up to the discretion of the insurance company, meaning they will not be required to offer this 24-month extension. But if they do offer it, then yes, it's guaranteed. Just want to clarify that. And with that, I move my motion.
We're ready for final action. Clerk will call the roll.
Alley. Baumgardner. Billinger. Bowers. Clays. Corson. Dietrich. Dahl. Erickson. Ag. Falscadeau. Francisco. Gossage. Haley. Hawk. Hildebrand. Holland. Holscher. Kirshen. Cluse. Longbine. Masterson. McGinn. Olson. O'Shea. Peck. Peterson. Petty. Pittman. Pyle. Reichman. Steffen. Straub. Sullentrop. Sykes. Thompson. Tyson. Ware. Warren. Wilborn.
Has every senator had an opportunity to vote? Senator from Finney, Senator Dahl.
I vote aye.
Does any senator wish to explain their vote? Does any senator wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the clerk will close the roll, tally the vote. "28 having voted in favor and 11 against the override. Two-thirds constitutional majority having been reached, the governor's veto is overridden on 29. The motion prevails. The bill is passed. Is there a motion on SB 273? Seeing none, the veto is sustained. Is there a motion on 159? Seeing none, this veto is also sustained. Are there announcements? I actually have one announcement. There is business before the Republican caucus. We will return to this chamber. We will give time for the chamber to clear. 11:45, so 15 minutes after adjournment. We'll just go 15 minutes on adjournment in case our announcements get out of control. So are there further announcements before we adjourn? Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Joint Committee on Information and Technology will meet upon adjournment of the second House or 12 o'clock in 218 North.
Senator from Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd just like to mention that in the past years, we've taken a little collection up for Pastor Washington and anyone interested in donating to help offset his expenses to come to the Capitol every day, and be taking donations this morning here. Thank you.
Senator from McPherson, Senator Wilburn.
Thank you, Mr. President. You'll notice a sack on your desk, which is some promotional items promoting Meet in the Middle Legislative Policy Summit to be held Wednesday, July 21st, 2021. Encourage everyone to come. It's been a great event in the past, and I hope to see you there.
Senator from Sedgwick, Senator Falscadeau.
Mr. President, if the senator would say, where do we make that donation to our awesome Senate chamber, Pastor Washington? Where do we make that donation? Thank you.
Senator for Sherman, Senator Billinger.
Thank you, Mr. President. You can give it to me, or I haven't talked to Chase yet, but maybe Chase or either one of us. Thank you.
Any further announcements? Seeing none, Chair recognizes Assistant Majority Leader from Cali, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. President. As provided by SCR 1613, I move the Senate adjourn, sine die.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Thank you all for your patience this year. By the virtues of the authority vested in me as the President of the Senate, I declare the 2021 session of the Kansas Senate adjourned, sine die.